There comes a moment in your life when you realize you've been starving, not starving for food, not starving for money, but starving for love, respect, and connection. And you've been surviving on crumbs, little texts, little promises, little moments of affection from someone who never intended to feed your soul. And let's be real, it's not the crumbs that break you. It's the hope that keeps you waiting for more, the hope that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. This time they'll show up fully. This time they'll love you the way you've been loving them. But deep down, you know the truth. You've been caught in a cycle with someone who gives you just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you whole. And if you've ever dealt with an avoidant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They dangle connection like bait. They pull you close, only to push you away. They make you question your worth, your beauty, your very sanity. But here's the truth, you are not here to live on breadcrumbs. You were not born to beg for the scraps of someone else's half-hearted love. You are not destined to chase shadows while your own light is waiting to shine. This is about reclaiming your power. It's about stepping beyond the breadcrumbs and saying, enough. I will no longer shrink myself to fit into someone else's fear of intimacy. I will no longer negotiate my value with someone who doesn't see it. I will no longer confuse breadcrumbs for a banquet, because today isn't about them. Today is about you. Today is about recognizing that you hold the power, not the avoidant. You hold the choice, not the rejection. And the moment you reclaim that power, the entire game changes. So let's dive deep into 6 powerful shifts that will help you move beyond breadcrumbs and reclaim your true strength, your true dignity, and your true love for yourself. Recognize the pattern and stop normalizing breadcrumbs. The first step in reclaiming your power is awareness. For far too long, you've been conditioned to see breadcrumbs as love, when in reality, they are the absence of love. You've been trained to celebrate the bare minimum, a text after days of silence, a compliment that comes only when you're on the verge of giving up, or a sudden burst of affection that quickly disappears. These aren't signs of commitment. They're signs of manipulation, whether intentional or unconscious. And unless you recognize it, you'll keep feeding into it. Why do we normalize breadcrumbs? Because we confuse consistency with intensity. Avoidants know how to create intensity in the moment. They can make you feel like the most important person on earth during one conversation, one date, or one night. That intensity leaves a deep imprint on your heart. But here's the problem, they don't follow it up with consistency. And without consistency, there is no real connection. There's only confusion. When you don't recognize the breadcrumb pattern, your brain begins to adapt to it. You start telling yourself stories. They're just busy. They're stressed. They'll change once things settle down. And with every excuse you make, you dig yourself deeper into a hole where your needs no longer matter. That's how breadcrumbs slowly erode your self-esteem. But the moment you see it for what it is, you break the spell. You realize love is not supposed to feel like hunger. Love is not supposed to leave you guessing. Love is not supposed to punish you with silence, then reward you with crumbs. Real love is consistent. Real love shows up. Real love doesn't make you beg. Recognizing this pattern is powerful because it returns the responsibility where it belongs, not on you, but on them. It's not your job to make them capable of love. It's your job to recognize when love is absent and stop calling it love. The truth is, the avoidant won't change because you suffer more. They'll only change if they want to. And that's their journey, not yours. Your power begins when you stop waiting for the next crumb and start asking, why am I staying in a place where I am unfed? That single question will shake your entire foundation and awaken the part of you that knows you deserve more. Detach your worth from their behavior. One of the most destructive effects of dealing with an avoidant is that you begin to tie your worth to how they treat you. If they respond quickly, you feel valuable. If they ignore you, you feel invisible. If they give you affection, you feel lovable. If they withdraw, you feel rejected. But here's the truth, your worth is not a reflection in their mirror. Your worth is intrinsic, unshakable, and untouchable, whether they see it or not. The danger comes when you hand your self-esteem over to someone who is emotionally unavailable. An avoidance behavior is not about you, it's about them. It's about their fears, their wounds, their inability to tolerate intimacy. When they pull away, it's not proof that you are unworthy. It's proof that they are unready. Yet, because your heart is invested, you interpret their distance as a statement about your value. The real shift happens when you stop allowing their behavior to dictate how you see yourself. Think about it. Do you really want to give someone else that much power over your identity? Imagine if every time they turned cold, you sank lower, and every time they gave a crumb, you rose higher. That's not self-worth. That's emotional slavery. That's living on a roller coaster built by someone else's unresolved wounds. To reclaim your power, you must anchor your worth inside yourself. You are worthy because you breathe. You are worthy because you exist. You are worthy because you are a human being with love to give, talents to share, and a heart that matters. No one's silence, rejection, or withdrawal can erase that. Detaching your worth from their behavior doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop collapsing. It means when they withdraw, you don't crumble, you stand tall. It means when they give crumbs, you don't beg, you raise your standards. It means when they fail to see your light, you don't dim yourself. You shine brighter. When you hold your worth firmly in your own hands, something incredible happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop settling for temporary highs. You stop negotiating with someone who doesn't even have the capacity to pay you in real love. Instead, you rise into a space where you realize their approval is optional. My approval is non-negotiable. And that shift, that's the very thing that transforms you from powerless to unstoppable. Shift your focus from chasing them to choosing yourself. Avoidants thrive when the focus is on them. They know you'll keep chasing, keep reaching, keep asking for more. And every time you do, you confirm the dynamic. They hold the power, you hold the longing. But here's where the game changes. You stop making them the center of your world, and you start making you the center of your world. Chasing them drains your energy, your time, and your spirit. It keeps you stuck in a loop where every day is about analyzing their behavior. Why didn't they text? What did that look mean? Should I reach out again? That obsessive focus leaves little room for your own growth, dreams, and fulfillment. And that's exactly how you lose yourself piece by piece, thought by thought, moment by moment. But choosing yourself is a radical shift. It means you stop waking up asking, will they love me today? And you start asking, how can I love myself today? It means you stop waiting for their crumbs and start creating your own feast. It means redirecting your energy away from their unpredictability and into your own certainty. Choosing yourself looks like pursuing your passions, nurturing your friendships, caring for your body, building your career, and expanding your spirit. It looks like pouring into the things that give you life instead of draining it. And when you do, something powerful happens. Your glow returns, your confidence rises, your aura changes. You stop radiating desperation and start radiating self-possession. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing, you break the avoidance control. Avoidants expect you to keep running after them. But when you stop and stand in your own power, they are forced to confront the truth. They can no longer manipulate you with scarcity. Shifting focus doesn't mean you shut down your heart. It means you open it wider, to yourself, to life, to people who can actually meet you where you are. It's about saying, I am not waiting another year, another month, another day for someone else to choose me. I choose me now. When you choose yourself, you step out of survival mode. You stop living in the shadow of their uncertainty and start walking in the light of your own certainty. And that's when the real transformation begins. Learn to embrace silence instead of fearing it. Silence is one of the avoidants' most powerful weapons. They pull away, they go quiet, they disappear into the shadows. And you're left staring at your phone, replaying every conversation, wondering what you did wrong. That silence can feel like torture because it forces you into the unknown. And for someone who craves connection, the unknown feels unbearable. But what if silence wasn't the enemy? What if silence was your teacher? What if silence was the very space where you rediscovered your strength? When you fear silence, you rush to fill it. You send the text, you make the call, you chase the response. And every time you do, you reinforce the power dynamic. They control the silence, and you collapse under it. But when you learn to embrace silence, everything changes. Suddenly, their withdrawal no longer dictates your emotional state. Their quiet no longer determines your value. Their absence no longer defines your presence. Here's the truth: silence isn't empty. It's full. It's full of space for you to reflect, heal, and reconnect with yourself. It's full of opportunities to ask deeper questions. Why am I giving my peace away to someone who thrives on withholding? Why am I waiting on their words when I have my own voice? When you stop fearing silence, you reclaim your power. You begin to understand that their silence is not a punishment, it's a projection. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's evidence of their fear. And once you see that clearly, you stop internalizing it. Instead of panicking in the quiet, you use it. You meditate, you journal, you work on your goals, you reconnect with your body, you strengthen your mind. Silence becomes a sanctuary, not a prison. And in that sanctuary, you find a peace that no breadcrumb could ever give you. The avoidance silence is meant to keep you hooked, but when you embrace it, it loses its grip. Their silence becomes background noise, while your inner voice becomes the music of your life. And that is the moment you shift from being controlled to being in control. Build boundaries that protect your energy and peace. Without boundaries, you become a playground for an avoidance fears. They come close when they want comfort, they withdraw when they want space, and you bend every time to accommodate them. Over time, you lose yourself because your entire life revolves around their rhythms. That's not love, that's self-abandonment. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They don't shut the world out, they let the right people in and keep the wrong behaviors out. And when you've been dealing with breadcrumbs, boundaries are the difference between being drained and being empowered. A boundary sounds like this: I don't chase people who ignore me. I don't beg for attention. I require consistency. I don't sacrifice my peace for someone else's comfort. When you set boundaries, you're not punishing the avoidant. You're protecting yourself. You're saying, my time, my energy, my love are valuable, and if you can't treat them with respect, you don't get access to them. Boundaries expose the truth quickly. An avoidant who only wanted control will disappear when you enforce your limits. And as painful as that may feel in the moment, it's actually a blessing. It saves you months, even years of being strung along. On the other hand, someone who truly values you will rise to meet your boundaries because they'll understand that respecting you is the only way to keep you. The beauty of boundaries is that they train you as much as they train others. They remind you that you are not powerless. They remind you that you have choices. They remind you that you are the gatekeeper of your own life. Building boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to over-giving. But discomfort is temporary, regret is permanent. Choose the temporary discomfort of saying no over the permanent regret of living on crumbs. Boundaries don't just protect your peace, they magnify your worth. They send a signal to the world that you know who you are, what you deserve, and what you will never tolerate again. Step into abundance and attract relationships that match your value. Here's the truth: breadcrumbs keep you living in scarcity. They convince you that love is rare, that connection is scarce, that attention must be earned. And when you believe that, you'll cling to crumbs as if they're the only thing keeping you alive. But the moment you step into abundance, your entire perspective shifts. Abundance says, there is more love out there. Abundance says, healthy relationships exist. Abundance says, I don't have to beg, because what I want is available in full. Think of it this way: imagine you're at a banquet table overflowing with food, but you're stuck in the corner chasing after crumbs. That's what life looks like when you stay tied to an avoidant. They've trained you to believe that their half-hearted love is the only love available. But the reality is, once you lift your head, you'll see the feast waiting for you. Stepping into abundance requires faith. Faith that you don't have to settle. Faith that your standards are not too much. Faith that you are worthy of overflowing love. It also requires action, choosing to walk away from scarcity, even when it's familiar, and moving toward what feels foreign but fulfilling. When you embody abundance, your energy changes. You stop attracting people who thrive on scarcity because they no longer find a match in you. Instead, you draw people who see your worth, honor your needs, and meet your love with equal love. Abundance isn't about having more people. It's about having the right people. It's not about collecting attention. It's about cultivating connection. And the more you embody abundance, the less tempted you are to ever go back to crumbs. The avoidance power only works in a scarcity mindset, but once you step into abundance, their crumbs lose all value. Why? Because you're no longer hungry. You're already full. And from that fullness, you attract relationships that reflect your value instead of diminish it. Rewrite your love story with yourself at the center. For too long, your love story has been written around someone else. The avoidant. They were the main character, and you were the supporting role, waiting for their attention, adjusting to their distance, sacrificing your needs. But here's the breakthrough. Your love story begins with you. When you rewrite your story, you stop asking, when will they love me? And start asking, how can I love myself more deeply today? You stop waiting for their validation and start giving yourself permission to feel whole. You stop making them the source of your joy and start creating joy on your own terms. Rewriting your story isn't about bitterness. It's not about closing your heart or vowing to never love again. It's about reclaiming authorship. It's about saying, I am no longer a character in someone else's script. I am the author of my own life, and my story will not be one of begging, waiting, or settling. This shift requires courage because it means letting go of the fantasy you've been holding on to, the fantasy that they'll change, that they'll become what you need, that the story will finally have the happy ending you've been clinging to. But when you release that fantasy, you create space for a new, truer story to emerge, one where you are loved fully, consistently, and unconditionally. And here's the magic: when you place yourself at the center of your own love story, you become magnetic. You radiate confidence, wholeness, and peace. You attract partners who see you as complete, not broken. You attract relationships built on mutual respect, not imbalance. Your story doesn't end with rejection. It doesn't end with silence. It doesn't end with crumbs. Your story ends and begins with you reclaiming your power, your dignity, and your right to be loved abundantly. The avoidant may be a chapter in your past, but they are not the title of your book. The title is you. And the story is still being written, this time on your terms. There comes a point in every journey where the pain transforms into clarity. The entire purpose of this message is not to make you resent avoidance, but to make you realize you were never powerless in the first place. You were always capable of standing tall, of reclaiming your worth, of demanding more than breadcrumbs. The struggle was never about convincing them to love you. It was always about remembering that you deserved real love in the first place. When you step beyond breadcrumbs, you enter a new chapter of your life. You stop surviving on scraps and start thriving on abundance. You stop lowering yourself to meet someone else's fears and instead rise to meet your own potential. This is not an easy choice. It requires courage, resilience, and faith. But every time you choose yourself, you send a powerful message to the world: I am not a beggar at the table of love. I am the banquet. And here's the beauty: once you embody this truth, your life transforms in ways you can't imagine. Opportunities open up, new relationships emerge, your confidence multiplies, your peace expands, and suddenly, the avoidant who once had such control over your emotions fades into the background. Why? Because you've risen so far above crumbs that you no longer even notice them. You've trained yourself to see only what is whole, what is real, what is abundant. The ultimate power lies in your choice. You cannot control how an avoidant behaves. You cannot force them to face their fears, but you can control what you accept. You can control where you place your energy. You can control whether you keep waiting for crumbs or you walk away to claim the feast. That choice is always in your hands, and that's where your freedom begins. So let this be the turning point. Let this be the day you finally say, enough, no more crumbs, no more waiting, no more shrinking. From this moment on, you are reclaiming your power. From this moment on, you are writing your story. From this moment on, you are stepping into a life where love is not scarce. It is overflowing, and it begins with you. Thank you for being here, for giving yourself the gift of listening, for daring to face the truth about what you deserve. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to invest this time in your own healing, your own growth, and your own power. That decision alone proves that you are ready for more, that you are done with crumbs, and that you are stepping into abundance. I want you to carry this message with you. You are worthy, you are powerful, and you are not defined by the love you did or didn't receive from someone else. You are defined by the love you choose to give yourself every single day. So as we close today, remember this: your story doesn't end in pain. It doesn't end in silence. It doesn't end in rejection. It ends in reclamation, in dignity, in the kind of love that finally feels like home. Until next time, keep standing tall, keep choosing yourself, and keep walking beyond breadcrumbs.